I would love to know how spinal manipulation could affect HRV.
I'm glad that you brought that up. So for a long time in my office, I was collecting data on that exactly. I would have patients come in. I would take their HRV immediately before, so they'd sit in the waiting room, take HRV. I would adjust them, then they'd go back to the waiting room and retake their HRV. And this is no joke. Almost every single patient, their HRV would nearly double. And it was just so cool to see. And you go, okay, like, you know how you feel so good after you get adjusted, you're kind of in that state. And I'm like, that's it. We are just cranking up their parasympathetics. So no wonder why you feel so good after, right? And that was so cool to see. And granted, there is other studies out there on like blood pressure,
yes.
you know, and chiropractic adjustments where it shows essentially the same thing, right? The same thing where we're affecting the autonomic nervous system, but you know, it's not looking directly at this. So it was really cool to see. And I don't know, maybe one day I'll actually do something with that and with that data and maybe publish it or something. But
I will harass you until you do, because I think that is huge information. That would be cool. What a great way to objectively monitor what you're doing is effective. Gosh, darn it. Thanks. So with the excitement that we have here, what would be some of the things that you foresee in the future with HRV? You know, I understand that, you know, with wearables and all that, you're on the board of a major biofeedback association. And, you know, what do you see as emerging trends?
So I think as we touched on earlier with AI, you know, I think that is going to become more and more of an influencer with HRV, in that you know, hopefully it will make the collection of data easier and more accurate. That would be one major thing. But I think also you know, opening people's eyes to the power of not only tracking HRV on a regular basis, but the power of HRV as a health metric. You know, there's studies and beginning to be a push out there that your primary care physician shouldn't be collecting things like cholesterol, like blood pressure, like any of those, as much as they should be paying attention to HRV, because it is so much more accurate of a health predictor for longevity than is these other biometrics that we've been collecting. So I would hope that healthcare as a whole is moving in that direction. And you know, unfortunately, I think pharmaceutical industry has a bit of an influence on what metrics your PCP is going to measure, right? But that's, you know, that would be really cool to see that start to change and look at that as a power. The other thing would be with biofeedback in itself. So using HRV and HRV biofeedback as a recovery tool. And that is one that is deeply in psychology and not really in too many other places. It's getting into sports with sports psychologists, but using that, a particular breathing pattern, a particular breathing method to influence recovery, you know, to influence reaction time, to influence all of these things that we know about HRV, that you can change that just simply by doing a particular breathing pattern, following a metronome. The power that has, because it's not talked about enough.
I have one quick question. If people listening don't have a Apple Watch, I mean, some of these are very expensive, some are cheaper. Can you give us just a really quick way for somebody that can get into this HRV where it's somewhat inexpensive, that they can start listening?
Yes, absolutely. So most devices are rather expensive, and even like the, you know, not so great ones are still pretty expensive. I work with a group. Are you guys okay if I mention names?
Yeah.
Okay. So I work with a company, Optimal HRV, and that was the whole push, was how can we make this more affordable for people? And the initial device that we came out with was under $50. It was the first really high quality device that was not all that expensive, that was realistic for the average person. And we just upgraded to a higher quality device, and I want to say that one's like $60. So again, not a huge ask, but what it came down to is we were a group of people who are concerned about helping people more than we were about profits. So we were like, well, if we can get them at this cost, why don't we just turn around and sell them to people at so much cheaper, right? We don't have to make a killing on these things.
Nice.
So that device I can highly recommend. It is a PPG device, like would be used for most other devices. And you can use it with any app. That's the other awesome thing is that most devices, like an Aura, like a Whoop, like Apple, you can only use it with their app, right? They don't share data with anything else. Polar actually, they do. Theirs is what's called an open source device. So they can share data to any application that can read it, as can ours. So we're very grateful that we're able to provide that.